computer. And you should see a bar come across on your screen saying that this session is now being recorded, and there's a little recording up in the corner, I believe. So anybody else who comes in should be able to see that as well. And with that, I'm going to make this very quick. Karen Caputo is research librarian, I believe is the term, in the Learning Center, is a fabulous resource whom I have adored since I came into the program. And I'm very grateful for all the services and activity that is provided. And Karen is going to share what that is and what is available to all of us as doctoral students, and especially with our writing challenges. And with that, Karen, if you would like to take over, and I'm going to keep letting people in as they come.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anne Marie. And thank you everyone for inviting me. I'm really excited to talk to students about library services. So it's always nice to get invited to these groups. I am going to share my screen, and give me just one moment while I do that. So you should be seeing the library homepage right now. And if at any point you guys aren't seeing my screen, or you're not hearing me, just type in the chat or something, or unmute yourself and let me know. If you have questions as we go along too, feel free to ask. I don't mind being interrupted or anything like that. So feel free to ask those questions as they come. So the library, as you guys might know, is part of what's called the Learning Commons. And the Learning Commons, in addition to the library, is also tutoring and workshops, that academic support piece. And then it's also testing. You guys probably won't use testing quite, I know you don't use, as doctoral students, our testing services. You guys have your own doctoral testing that you do within your courses or with your comps. So you don't need to worry about using testing office here, because you're taken care of as doctoral students already. But I wanted to kind of go through some of the library services available and make you aware if you aren't aware, or remind you of some if you've heard this before but maybe forgot about some things. So obviously, one of the biggest things we think about with the library is research. It's where we go to do research. So of course, our library databases are kind of the big thing where you're going to find research resources. And on the library homepage, which you can get to by going to franklin.edu/library, I know it says in the search bar, it'll say, /learning commons/library. You actually don't need to write that whole out. You could just put /library and it will redirect you. If you scroll down on the homepage, there's of course our search library resources. This is our kind of big search box that searches a lot of our databases in one search. So for a lot of doctoral students, that's a little too big, that's too broad. And they often want to go to our subject specific databases. But if you were ever having issues with not finding enough resources and you wanted to go broader, you could probably use this search box instead. So I just like to point it out as an option. For all library services, you'll just want to go to the library menu page, and you'll just want to click on the library on this left-hand menu to expand it to see everything available. Our hours are also listed up here. Right now, we are remote until at least February 7th. And then we'll find out more information about whether we're going to continue to be remote or, hopefully be back on campus and having you guys able to come in if you want. But in the library, we also have our databases, of course, and databases you guys are going to get very familiar with throughout your doctoral career. We have quite a few databases, over 150. So there's a lot out there, and I don't expect everyone to know every database, but if you are recommended a database by an instructor or by a librarian, You can find those databases listed alphabetically by name. If you needed to, quick get to a letter in the alphabet and not have to scroll through the whole thing, you can use this filter by dropdown to help filter down to that database. If you don't know the name of the database, which is pretty common, there's a lot of them, as I said, and you're not going to remember all their names. There is this by majors tab. So instead of going alphabetically, you can actually select it by majors, and you'll just want to use, again, the filter by drop down below to then limit to sort of the recommended databases we have for that subject area. So of course, business administration is one. We have education, healthcare. There's a lot of them, a lot of different areas in healthcare, instructional design, nursing. So there's, ones for everyone and all the different doctoral programs available. If you are in a research area too, that is sort of cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary, feel free to look at some of the other ones. Maybe you're doing something in business administration, but it's also in healthcare, or also is in higher education. You might want to look at some education databases. So just don't be afraid to go outside based on your topic area of your subject area, of your major, I should say. And then we also have them listed by type. And what that means is content type. So sometimes you might be interested in just looking at ebooks, for example. And so we have a couple special ebook only databases. And if we use that filter again, we could look at the ebook databases. I think this is especially helpful for those of you who might be distant students. Most of our books are ebooks. And this is an easy way to kind of search for the ebooks. We also have a couple other, different types like newspaper, but I think for you guys, dissertations are going to be the most important ones, those dissertation databases. Of course, ProQuest is one I have to call out. Theses and dissertation and theses global. That one's a big one. It's the biggest, dissertation theses database in the world. OhioLink, Electronic Theses and Dissertation Center, is also one that I like to point out. And I like to point these two out as well, because when you are done with your dissertation and you're ready to publish, you'll be publishing in OhioLink, and you'll also be publishing in ProQuest. It'll be available in both those databases. So I like to point those ones out specifically because it is where your work will end up. So that's kind of databases, just a quick, here they are, where you can find them. But, if you need help with databases, or, with finding what databases to look for, we do have some helpful guides called our research guides. And we have these for a lot of different topic areas. One of them, of course, that I have to call out is APA citation, because I know that one is always a bit of a bear for people. This is always one of our most popular guides to use. It's sort of just a quick reference on how to do citation in APA for different things. So we have some resources, some sample documents and guides that you can look at, including a tutorial on just, how do I set up this APA paper in Word? Where do I go to get that hanging indent that I need for my reference page and things like that. But then also we get into, specific types of resources you might be using. So a lot of the times for you doctoral students, you're going to be using articles, journal articles specifically. So we'll just scroll down to the journal article section, and you can see we've given you just some basic tips about what to think about when you're citing journal articles in that 7th edition, including examples. And I just find examples much more helpful to me than sometimes reading out what is what you need. Sometimes it's helpful to see how did someone format a citation already. I find that helpful. So we've just given you examples using different situation. So if you have a reference, a journal article that has that DOI number, here's how to cite it. If if it doesn't have that, then you just leave it off. And then also how to do those in-text citations too. So how to add it to a sentence to, make sure you're giving credit to the author who came up with the idea that you're paraphrasing. And the different ways you might do that. So there's, the paraphrase. If you're doing a quotation, of course, you have to add page numbers. And then if you're doing something like a narrative citation, which, is more like you're including the author in your sentence. So, Smith, in their study of so-and-so talked about this, blah, blah, blah. So like that kind of thing, how to, add the year after you mention the author's last name. And then, we go through other ones like 2 authors, 3 or more authors. So you just have all of those examples like at your fingertips to reference, and, any unknown authors as well. So I just like to point that one out specifically because I know APA citation is quite daunting to students, but you have resources available to help you, figure it out. And there's always going to be questions though. I still have questions about APA and I do it every day. So that's really normal. And you have us in the library and writing support from tutoring that can help answer some of those questions for APA too. In addition to the APA citation guide, we also have our doctoral research guides, which you might already be familiar with through some of your coursework. I'm just going to scroll down to the D section because that's where most of our doctoral student research guides are available. So we have our DBA, our DHA, a newer program is our DNP, the DPS, and also if you go down to E, we have the EDD. And then we also have the doctoral research and writing guide, which you might recognize if you have taken English 800 or if you are in English 800 right now. This is sort of a more general guide for helping develop your research and writing. But we also have these subject-specific guides to help give you some more subject-specific recommendations, such as recommended databases, maybe some recommended journals that you might want to check out in business as well, or in education. All of them are set up fairly similarly, but they have more subject-specific resources. One thing I also like to point out is we do have, things linked. So the APA style guide, we always try to link on your doctoral research guide so that you can just have quick access to get to it. We also have some doctoral FAQs. And I don't know if someone was trying to ask a question. I thought I heard someone. So if you are, feel free to unmute. But I just like to mention these FAQs are available. So if you're curious about anything with the library, these are just some of our top questions that we get. A lot of them have to go around, access to articles or, dissertation questions as well. So we've tried to put, some of those, like where can you find students' dissertations? Are there recordings of previous doctoral students' defenses? We do actually have a couple doctoral students, former doctoral students who have allowed us to put a recording of their defenses up on our website. And I mention that because I know sometimes, you want to know what to expect when you're doing your defense. So as you get there, know that these are available for you to check out and see, what the process is like and what you can expect from your defense. And then just things about publishing for your dissertation as well, because the library does help with that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want to get on to some other helpful resources for you, including our video tutorials. So in addition to our library research guides, we also have video tutorials to help you. And you'll notice our video tutorials are also linked in some of our research guides. So you might see some of these in the research guides, but I also, like to point out that they're there just, if you need to just learn how to navigate the Learning Commons, learn how to use the library, we have different tutorials available for you. Google Scholar is one I like to point out. Google Scholar is a great tool for doctoral students. There's a graduate student library orientation that might be helpful for you as well. So I just, recommend if you're struggling and you just need, some help to look at these, there's a lot of tutorials available. And we are trying to add more all the time too, as we find that students need them. So in addition to research guides, you can use video tutorials to help, but of course you have the librarians available to you as well. So if you, prefer to talk to someone, or if you have a question that can't be answered by some of those things, we have different ways that you can contact us. And one of them is, of course, our chat here in the right-hand corner of the library website. You'll see it when you're searching in databases as well sometimes. This chat is, available 7 days a week because we're open 7 days a week. So Monday through Thursday, we're open 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there is a librarian there to, help answer questions on chat during those times. It's also 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Fridays, and 9 a.m. To 5 p.m. on Saturdays, which I'm realizing is wrong in our hours up here. So we'll have to fix that. And then 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays. So you can chat with librarian live during those hours. You can also, it turns into an email form when someone's not available. So if it's, after we're closed or before we're open, you can actually send us an email and it'll go to the library inbox and we will respond the next day since we're available. In addition to chat though, we also have a meet with librarian option under the left-hand menu. If you scroll down to that I need to section and select meet with a librarian, you can have a Zoom appointment with a librarian like we're doing today. And it's a one-on-one appointment with librarian. You can select a time and a day that works for you. We're available on weekends as well. So we try to make it easy because I know that some of you are busy working and have families. And so we try to have some evening and weekend hours available as well. So, do this early. Like if you know that you need help, reach out early, don't wait. Even if it's a quick meeting, if it's, just I'm uncomfortable with the library and I need someone to kind of walk me through some things, that's fine. It can be some basics. It can be more, complex questions about where to find data sources or, how to do a complex search that you're not finding information about. So it can really run the gambit of difficulty and length of the question. But feel free if that's, if you like to talk to a person, see their face, listen to their voice, the meet with librarian option is a great one. And then of course you can contact us through email and through phone as well. So if you go to our shortcuts, there's a contact us area and there is the library phone number as well as library email. Again, because we're in 7 days a week, even if you email us in off hours or call us in off hours and leave a voicemail, we'll get back to you the next day. We'll give you a call back. We'll email you back, whichever. Do note this Monday is MLK Day, so we are closed. So on those days, you might, you won't hear from us until Tuesday. But if it's not a holiday, you'll hear from us the next day. So lots of options for contacting us. We got chat, we got those library appointments, phone, email, and then of course, when we're not remote like we are right now, you can always come into the library and talk to someone as well. In addition to how to contact us and get research help, I did want to just briefly mention that, when you get to the point of publishing your dissertation, which is really exciting, you'll also be working with me to do that publication process. So when you get there, a librarian, you'll get instructions on how to do that. And your dissertation, like I said, will be available in a couple different places. It will be available in ProQuest. It will also be available, and let me grab, I have it bookmarked because I'm here all the time, in the Ohio Link Electronic Theses and Dissertation Center. I'm going to go to our participating institutions so you can see Franklin's listed, and you can see all of the Franklin student dissertations that have been published so far. You can browse just, all of them. You can look at some of our top downloads or some of our recently added, and then you can look at it by departments as well. So if you're more interested in DBAs and EDDs and so EDDs and DPS are both under I4 if you're curious. So just, then you can look at, some of our former students' dissertations, read what they wrote, how they formatted it, things like that. So I like to just point that out, that this is there. You're going to be in ProQuest, you're going to be in Ohio Links, and you're also going to be available through our institutional repository called Fuse. And part of the reason we do this is just to increase your impact, that more people will be able to actually access your dissertation. We link to Ohio Link, but we do put this in the institutional repository just because this is a kind of a, centralized place for all of Franklin scholarship. So in addition to your dissertations being in here, we also have a lot of our faculty and staff who put their scholarship in this institutional repository. So if you ever wanted to look at our faculty and staff scholarship, you could see what are your faculty members, what are they publishing. I will say not all of our faculty members have had a chance to submit their research yet. And some of our faculty members can only submit certain things because of their publishing agreements. Not all journals allow us to put these up here because it is a public website. So nothing is behind a paywall. And because it's publicly available, some publishers, of course, do not want us putting that content up freely. But, we do have a good amount of faculty and staff who have been able to put work up. And if you're interested in the work that they're doing, I would recommend, checking out their scholarship as well. Hopefully in the future, we will actually be adding more doctoral student scholarships. So stay tuned about that. We want to highlight the work that you guys are doing. And I know a lot of you are going to conferences maybe and presenting with sometimes alone and sometimes with some faculty here at Franklin. And I even know some doctoral students who have already published in journals. So we would like to make sure to sort of capture and highlight those really amazing things that you're doing research-wise. So stay tuned, because I think that will be coming soon, that we will be able to highlight some of the work that you're doing. And you might have already noticed if you had gone to the Doctoral Student Association conference last year, those conference materials are actually available in this institutional repository as well. So just, it's kind of a nice little added bonus for you guys that you can kind of point to, hey, here's some of the scholarship, and a way for us to kind of highlight the wonderful work that everyone at Franklin is doing around research and scholarship. So I always like to mention it. I know I've probably gone a little bit over time at this point because I could talk about stuff forever.
You're fine, Karen. We do have a question in the chat.
Oh, perfect.
This question is, please, this goes to the presenter. Do you work with other libraries in the States for remote students to borrow a textbook for research? An example, I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. Can I borrow a textbook from some universities in here in case that text, cut off. Textbook from some universities here in case that book is available. Basically interlibrary loan.
Yeah, so we don't have like a, if you some of you might already be aware that like Ohio Link exists, which allows Ohio library academic libraries to borrow books. Unfortunately, that just doesn't exist in other states, and there's not an interstate collaboration. I wish there was. I would recommend looking for your state library. A lot of the state libraries actually will have agreements with like academic institutions to borrow books. So you can sometimes borrow it through your state library if you get a state library card, or through your public library, you might be able to. With Franklin, unfortunately, just we don't have those agreements with interstate. It's not something that a lot of academic institutions do across state lines because the coordination is quite difficult. But I bet you if you went into some of those libraries, they might try to help you find a way to get those books to borrow them. So those would be my recommendations. You did mention Anne Marie interlibrary loan, and that was something I did want to mention. I'm glad you reminded me because I totally forgot. But under this left-hand menu on the library website and under the I need to section is this request interlibrary loan form. And if you ever have an experience where you cannot get a book or an article, and right now we can't do books because we're remote, but when we were back on campus, we can do that again. But if you especially find articles right now that we don't have access to, maybe they're not available in our database, but you think it's going to be a helpful article for you, you can actually ask for an interlibrary loan request. Put your information, put the citation information of the article or book that you need, and we will actually see if we can get that from another library. And most of the time we can, and if it's an article, we can usually email you the PDF within a couple days. However, I've known it can take up to a couple weeks, and it's just one of those weird things where because we're borrowing it from another institution, we cannot, we don't always know when we're going to get a reply. We do limit you to 10 articles and 10 book requests a month, and that's partially because we pay for this service, so it's free to you, but the library actually pays other libraries for those articles and books. So that's why there's a limit on it. But so basically, if there's something that you need that you don't have access to, it is not necessarily the end of the line. We can try to get it through interlibrary loan.
We have another question. Actually, can you just quickly reiterate what is the link for being able to look at the dissertations? I believe that was on the doctoral research.
Yes, on the guide. Yeah.
Guide.
Yeah. So if you go to any of your guides that are doctoral guides, it's actually linked on every single doctoral guide. So you can go to the DBA, you can go to DHA, and if you go to doctoral FAQs, it's linked on everyone so that you can find it. There is a couple different links. So there's, the FAQs does where can I find previous students completed dissertations. So you can go, straight there to the Franklin University student dissertations in Ohio Link. You can also go actually to the database itself. You can search for it on our databases page. If you go to it's the Electronic Theses and Dissertation Center Ohio Link. So either way is a way, but I like this one. I like to show this one because it takes you straight to Franklin's student ones, rather than if you go through this link, you have to, find Franklin from that participating institutions list.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember exactly where it is because I think I bookmarked it in week 1 and haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good idea, is bookmark some of these things too. You can probably tell from my browser, I bookmark a lot of stuff and I bookmarked it too. So, I just start typing it in to find it.
Right. We have another question. This is about the storage of dissertations. How are dissertations that are already published integrated globally? Specifically, that potentially a student in 20 to 30 years wants to find a publication, they're in China, and they want to look for a dissertation published via Ohio Link or ProQuest in 2022. Is that something that the institution has their publishing depository, or is that something that remains accessible? Is there a time limit on how long things will be accessible?
As of now, no. So there's no time limit. Ohio Link is actually a publicly available database. So it's not behind a paywall. So anyone, looking for your dissertation will be able to find it on Ohio Link. I doubt ProQuest will ever get rid of your dissertation because they like that content being in there. That is a one of the selling points for them of having that dissertation. Of course, as with Ohio Link, because we have it published in a more local database, we have a little more control over it. Ohio Link, if you're unfamiliar with it, it's a library organization specific to Ohio academic libraries. And this is our own product that is created. It's a state entity, and it's been around for a long time. I don't think there's any plans to ever get rid of it. We get so much good things from Ohio Link that if, a lot of other states, actually, their academic libraries don't organize this way together, don't share resources, don't have these things. Unfortunately, so we're really lucky to have them, and there's no plans to, decommission something like this. It'll be available, and even if for some reason it got, taken down, or ProQuest decided to take down everyone's dissertations, there are, going to be copies available. So I wouldn't worry about it not being available in the future.
I have another question. So the service Elsevier, ELSEVIER, when somebody goes in to try to pull an article down, including articles that have been assigned by instructors, it says Franklin University doesn't exist. Now, it does recognize Franklin University in Switzerland, but it says that we can't access them. Is that something, because I thought we used to be able to.
With Elsevier, it depends on the journal. We don't, there's a lot of content within Elsevier. We don't subscribe specifically to everything in Elsevier, but we do subscribe to certain journals. So that might be why you're seeing that. And if you are ever unclear about whether we have, an article like an Elsevier one, you can always ask us. And, that's a common question we get through chat, especially, is people just be like, do you guys have this article? I'm not sure. And if, we do, we can provide you with the right link. But yes, that's true. We do not have a subscription service to Elsevier. So that might be why you're seeing that.
And that happens with a few things. So
yeah,
it's not unusual.
Yeah, we would love to be able to subscribe to everything. I don't know if some of the cost of these are,
yeah, I don't want to pay more tuition.
Quite prohibitive. Yeah. You would be shocked at how much some of these databases cost. I was talking to someone the other day about it, and we were just talking about one, and hearing that it would cost $250,000 to get a year subscription to a specific database. So it's yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions? I think I have all the questions out of the chat now.
And thank you for that, Anne Marie. I apologize. I was not paying attention.
Will, please go ahead.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of ask that question about the integration of information, because they think, so if I meet somebody, casually, hey, yeah, I did my doctorate 20 years ago, and they're very old or whatever, I will basically have to ask them, so where did you publish your dissertation, basically? Because it may not be in the ProQuest or the standard one that we know of. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so how does a student in Albania or a student in China who does their doctoral degree there, where do they publish their work? so the future student, when they're researching, can find that information. So it sounds to me that there's many different depositories out there,
There are,
and that they're not always integrated. So there's a chance that unless you
yes.
know where they publish, right?
Yes, that is true. I mean, ProQuest is often a good bet to look at because ProQuest is the biggest, but that's kind of a local decision. So each institution, each college, university decides on where they want their students' dissertations published and how that process works. So that is, it's not a, yeah, you're right, it's not like an integrated process. There's not just like one place. ProQuest would probably be the closest thing to a centralized repository for those.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's a good question.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Karen, thank you so much for coming with us today, and thank you for sharing all of this information. Now, were you just going live on your desktop, or is this in a slide deck, or is there something that includes this information from Day in one of the video tutorials?
Yes, so no, this was live for me. I just always find that easier to kind of be able to show you guys. But if you know, a lot of this information is available in our Find Right site video recording, and there is actually a Find Right site for doctoral students workshop coming up in February. And so you'll all be getting an email about that. And let me just grab the and that is on the workshops page, and I will just grab that really quick and put in here. Of course, the Find Right site is a longer workshop. It's about an hour long, but you can find all workshop recordings here on the website. And then if you want to sign up for the Find Right site when it's available, you'll get an email. I believe all doctoral students, especially if you're in English 800, will get that. So that's probably the best one to go look at.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to let Karen get back to her Saturday.
Thank you.
I do have one
Okay.
quick question. Is the tutorial learning how to use the RefWorks? Is it very thorough?
Yeah, so there's
with the RefWorks.
Yes, RefWorks is a great tool, but I know it is kind of difficult to get to. So there is a RefWorks kind of basic tutorial. If you go to the RefWorks guide, there's additional tutorials that go through, and I'll put the RefWorks link in. If you go to the research guides page, it's there, but I put the link in there. And if you go to like kind of each page, you know, the create a page, there's a quick tutorial video, but there's also some like longer tutorials as well. So I would recommend looking at those. It's not like one long tutorial, it's a couple different videos.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I need that one too.
Yeah. I know RefWorks is great, but it's difficult to get used to. And especially, I mean, you guys like know this already, but I like to say it is, if you haven't done some of this stuff in the past, it's so overwhelming. You're looking at databases, you're looking at APA, you're looking at new tools like RefWorks. It's a lot, and it's not, you know, surprising that some of it would be sometimes a little stressful. So and if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Just because you're doctoral students doesn't mean you're going to know everything, or you know, I have a lot of students who say, I don't know if this is a stupid question. Trust me, it's probably not a stupid question.
That's great. Well, again, thank you very much. And again, I think I'm going to say if
Thank you.
if there aren't any other questions, then we'll say goodbye to Karen. Give me a second to turn off the recording, and then we'll continue with our just general discussion amongst the group if you like.
Thank you guys, and feel free to reach out to me as well. My email is just my name, Karen.caputo@franklin.edu. So feel free to reach out to me, or, obviously the library inbox is also available too. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
All right, thank you.